Look at that. Isn't that absolutely stunning? The sun hasn't even popped over the eastern horizon, and young Sindile is up in the tree and feasting. We had magnificent shots of him yesterday with the sun setting, and now we're starting our morning with a leopard sunrise. And we can hear lions roaring in the distance, and Steph and Herbie are out looking for them. Remember, this is live. We're seeing this at the exact same time as you. Now, if you want to ask me questions about this leopard, you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or send me an email, questions@WildEarth.TV. Now the sun's going to be popping up in the next little bit, and we're going to be right here next to this leopard. So get your screenshot fingers ready, and it's going to be absolutely stunning. And remember to share your screenshots with us on Twitter using the hashtag SafariLive, or pop them on our Facebook page. And of course, there are many groups run by our avid SafariLive fans, and I'm sure they would love you to share your screenshots there as well. There's a very noisy fork-tailed drongo behind us who's yeah, complaining at mouthful of hair. So at the moment he's busy plucking by the looks of things. Get the hair out of the way. Ramo would like to know, what is he eating? He's eating a yearling impala ram. Look at that. So he's eaten more than half of it. I would say he made this kill not last night, but the night before. And we haven't seen him in quite some time, so it's really great to catch up with this leopard. And I'm sure all of you can notice the collar. Now that has been put there by scientists. He's had the most interesting year, young Sindile. After catching a dog that tested positive for rabies, he was taken into quarantine. He's now back in the bush, living wild and free. Isn't that incredible? So he's plucking the hair so he can get to the nice, nutritious meat. So he's eaten all the high-value parts already, the lung, the liver, the liver's the heart, kidneys, and now he's on to what looks like the rump. Not the rump, the forequarters. He's already eaten the rump. Now the leg dangling is what was attached to the rump. And you can see that's a back leg. You can see the metatarsal gland on the back of that impala's foot there. Sleepy One would like to know, is this Sindile, the famous quarantined leopard, the myth, the legend? Indeed it is, and he is in the flesh right next to us. Now, I hope your screenshot fingers are ready, because I'm going to ask Wiem to come wide, and we're going to start seeing that magnificent leopard sunrise. Look at that. Isn't that absolutely stunning? Oh. Now, this is not the most ideal tree, but I think it was the most conveniently close tree. And so far, no hyenas are around, so he's having quite a good time. hasn't been put under pressure. And he's probably going to eat a bit faster than a dominant male leopard or a dominant female would, just because he's about 2 years old, so he's trying to avoid any confrontation. So if Tingana, who's the dominant male leopard, came here, he would have to skedaddle. So he's going to try and eat as much as possible. Oh, what did he drop? He dropped something there. Oh, I'll have a look just now. So we're going to sit here, spend the sunrise with young Sindile before we move on, see what other wonders are on Djuma. While we do that, let's go say good morning to Steph. So we're still sitting with young Sindile. The sun is coming up quite quickly. So here we go, look at that. You can see that gorgeous pre-dawn light with a wonderful silhouette of a male leopard. Oh, a bit of hair there on. He's got a bone as well. Crunch, crunch. So the smaller bones a leopard will crunch through to get to the nutrient-rich marrow. The bigger bones, however, he won't feed off. He'll let them fall to the floor. No, I think he's been lucky. I think the hyenas have been kept at bay by all the lion activity that's been happening. A lot of that lion activity has been happening very close to here. Now, Dan would like to know, do leopards always eat their kills in a tree? Now, Dan is a new viewer, so welcome to Safari Live, Dan. Quite often they do. It's not always. Sometimes they will feed on the ground. But if there are other predators around, they prefer to put their kills in the tree to protect them from hyenas, lions. And it's one of the special adaptations leopards have developed to avoid competition with other predators that are bigger and stronger. Now, Michael would like to know, is the hoisting of a kill a learnt behavior or an instinctual behavior? I'd say it's an instinctual behavior. Leopards know they can climb from tiny little cubs. So I think it's an instinctual behavior developed over many millennia. Morning, Susan in Georgia. Susan says, what would stop another big cat from climbing up a tree and stealing the leopard's kill? Well, size, firstly, Susan. Although this is, as I said, not the most ideal tree. I think a lioness would get up there. Not very elegantly, but she would get up there. Here we go, look at that. The sun's about to pop up. But it's mostly size. They're too heavy and not as nimble. Now, they've evolved to catch bigger prey. Well, the leopard's evolved as a solitary animal. So being able to cache food makes more sense. But if you live in a big family group, it's far better to gulp it down as fast as possible. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Okay, the sun is just popping up over the horizon. Oh, looks like he's going to try and move the carcass into a place where it might be a bit easier to feed. Well, that's not very nice of you. It is not an ideal tree. He does not look comfortable at all. So now we've got the rear view, and look, there we go. Look at that wonderful tail. I should have moved forward a bit. Now, of course, young Sindile has moved. Oh, at the very moment I was waiting for that sun to pop up for the perfect silhouette. How's that, Vim? So we will move around to the other side of him once the sun is up. Look at that. Now, it always amazes me how leopards can just perch in sometimes the most inconvenient of spots. And if we look at how his back leg is sitting, that can't be comfortable. Okay, let's move around. Now, this is the way to start your day. Hey Vim, another tough day in the office for all of us here on Safari Live. Don't know how we do it every day. You okay, Vim? Okay. Let's get into spot now. And you're going to see that gorgeous morning light coming through onto his face. How's that, Vim? That'll work. Every time he looks up, I half expect to see a Birmingham boy marching in. Arathusa Fox would like to know, at what age will this young male leopard, Sindile, start staking out his own territory? Is it possible he might take a piece of Mvula's territory? Well, he's a long way away from looking for territory yet. He's probably got a good another 3 to 4 years before he's going to be big enough and strong enough to compete with an adult male leopard. And it's very unlikely he's going to stake territory in this area. Not impossible, but just very unlikely. At the moment, the male leopards around here. We're quite thick with male leopards. So we've got Tingana. Mvula is still hanging around, but he doesn't really hold territory at the moment. And then, of course, there's the ghost from the north, Djuma, and Anderson to the west, and Shavambalan in quarantine to the east. So I think he's probably going to move away from his natal area the moment he keeps coming back, because he feels a little bit more safe here. It's a sort of known area, but I don't think he will set up territory around here. And as I said, there's quite a few years before he's going to be able to. Look at that, he's heard something. Oh, nothing that important. He might have heard the lions. They're down towards Gallagher Camp. Are we going to keep sitting here with the gorgeous young Sindile in his precarious perch? While we do that, let's go see how Steph's hunt for the lions is going. So he's still in the same spot in that very precarious perch, munching away. Now, isn't this the way every day should start? With a leopard in a tree. What do you think, Fem? Absolutely, yeah, I agree. Oh, look at him repositioning. Now, Birdie in Georgia says she's surprised that no vultures came to the kill. That would have been fun to see. Indeed it would have, Birdie. I think that would have been absolutely magnificent. He did keep such a good close eye on it, though. So maybe a vulture appeared while we weren't here, and he saw it off. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Now, Birdie, strange you should mention that. There's a bird of prey. But it's not a vulture. You see him there? There he goes. It's an African harrier hawk flying east into the rising sun. I thought, Birdie, your prediction had come true, and I thought, sure, that's an early morning vulture, but alas, just a harrier hawk. Nemophilist would like to know what kind of tree is Sindile precariously perched in at the moment. It is a red bush willow, Combretum apiculatum, and not the biggest tree and not the most ideal tree to put a kill in, but he seems to be faring quite well, apart from the occasional near drop of his carcass. Now, Shannon in Ohio is wondering if Shadow has lost her current cub, would she try find young Sindile? I probably don't think so. I think as he's been away from her for a bit too long, so I think she would probably behave aggressively towards him like we saw her do a couple of months ago. Now, I mean, if we think about it, oh, and I mean, if we think about it, he has been away from her for probably close on a year now, so I think it's unlikely that she would show any sort of maternal affection towards him. As I said on yesterday's Sunset Safari, I don't think there's going to be much left by this evening. Now, Toxigenics is wondering if we've ever considered using drones to help find animals. We have, and there are some very interesting things in development, and that's about all I can say for now. If you go look at our Facebook page, you might come down the tree right towards us. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Look at those eyes. Here he comes. Hello, little horror. Off he goes. Where's he, Vim? Right behind us. So you can see how close he is behind Vim. Vim's backrest is blocking the view of him. Do you cameraman really need a backrest, Vim? Of course, but it's ruining the shot. It's an invisible leopard. Okay, he's coming back out. There we go. He's going to go see what he dropped under the tree. He did drop a particularly large piece, but I think it was mostly bone. Waste not, want not. Looking very chuffed with himself. Now, if there had been hyenas around, he's going to stash it right next to Fanuti there. Fan, you better be careful, otherwise your leg will be next. Oops, he got a bit of a fright from the car. Tack's just moving a bit further away from him, so he's a bit more comfortable. Here we go. Okay. So we're going to leave young Sindile now and go see what other wonders are out in the African bush. I'm going to give some other people a chance to come in. What a fantastic way to start the morning with a leopard silhouetted by the sunrise. So while we do that, let's go across and see how Steph's hunt for the lions is going.
He's roaring. Kill is in the tree in front of us. And obviously doesn't have a leopard attached to it. So last time he was here, he was eating a piece there he is. Just straight there. Straight through. So Brian is... Oh, okay, I've got him. All right. So we've got him. He's lying in the shade just to the side of the kill. So let's go there. Well done, Mr. Brian. Spotted his unmistakable silhouette in the shade of the tree. All right, lying in that such typical pose, that relaxed on the side cat pose. We're going to see if we can get you into a nice place to view him without looking at the back of his head. All right, so Kurt, the idea is literally just to relax around elephant, give them rights of way, and if they show any sort of overtly domineering, if you feel like you're being dominated, then just create distance with elephant, and that should solve 9 out of 10 of your problems. All right. We're just going to go around to where he's lying at the moment. Looks like he's been lying underneath this bush for most of the morning. There's a few tracks here of cars that have come in and out. I don't want to let him get scared. Yesterday when I was looking at him from the final control, you're going to be okay here, Mr. Brian. Let's see if I can thread your camera through here and the aerial. All good. Yesterday when I was looking at his reactions from the final control, he seemed like he was a little bit on edge with vehicles and with people. And no wonder. I think he's warranted as having full right to dislike people. I'm going to make a statement here that may seem bizarre, but this is the first time that I lay my eyes upon young Sindile. I have never seen this leopard before. Yeah. Not in all the time that we had all those beautiful visuals of him and James creating that almost, that bond with him, basically. I don't know how else to put it. Not in any of that time was I lucky enough to see Sindile. This is the first time that I'm laying my own eyes on him. And he is actually a beautiful cat. He's well proportioned. He's well muscled. I agree with Brent. I quite enjoy the color of his coat. He's got this history that we now know about him, and that endears him to us, or to me at least anyway. But Justin, you've asked me how much does an adult leopard weigh. Now, they're very variable in their weight, Justin. And the reason for that is because they're so highly adaptable. They fill niches literally from the borders of our towns and our cities even. Pretoria and Nelspruit are frequently visited by leopard. Leopard also inhabit mountainous regions and all the way into the jungles in Central Africa. And they get bigger the more tropical the area gets. And I think it's just because of the prey availability. So in places like the Sabi Sands here, going into Botswana and in Zambia, you find the heaviest leopard. With the heaviest leopard ever measured at around about 110 kilograms, which is about 220, 230 pounds. With the heaviest leopard in the Sabi Sand ever measured at about 90 kilograms or 95 kilograms. Brent knows the exact weight, but it's somewhere around the 90 kilograms, which is heavy, which is about 180 pounds, somewhere around there, 190 pounds. So a decent-sized animal. He is probably in the region of about 50 kilograms, I would say. He definitely isn't as big as what he's going to be one day, barring any further mishap. And for those who are just joining us this morning, for those new viewers that have just joined us this morning, this particular leopard was caught and collared after being bitten by a rabid dog, a rabid domestic dog. And he was quarantined for about 9 months while he was undergoing some medical treatment and also just making 100% sure that he wasn't infected with the rabies virus. 2 reasons for that. One is because we were compelled to help this young guy, and 2 is you don't want an animal that is habituated to vehicles like this being set free where the potential for human-animal interaction is high. We wanted to make 100% sure that this animal wasn't going to create a threat to human life, and so that's why he was quarantined for all that time. He was then released where he was caught, and contrary to popular belief, instead of dispersing very, very far, which is the norm, he basically traveled, I don't know, 40, 50 miles away from where we are now, and then came back and is now with a fresh kill, literally a mile or 2 from where he was born. And is a bit of an enigma to the local scientists. And for that reason, he has that collar on. He is he's adding to science by the second. You can see it over there. Many, many animals get collared. It's a practice that has been happening for decades and with little to no effect to this animal's health and well-being whatsoever. Carly, you've just asked me if we've had any dangerous experiences with animals. Carly, all the time. You get it wrong sometimes with these animals. As much as what we've been around and seeing animal behavior and being part of these animals' lives, you sometimes do tread over that boundary, and animals will warn you, you know. A leopard, for instance, that is fine one day and a week later is hungry or feels chased around or has been harassed by a lion, might turn around and charge a car or charge you on foot for no reason other than he's just feeling a bit grumpy that day or a bit edgy that day. And there's no real protection we have. We sit in open vehicles here, and you know, you can get, and let me say that the potential is there for animals to do people harm all the time. The reality is that they don't really, and that quite often you just get a big fright, that animal chastises you absolutely. And you get a big fright, and those boundaries are re-established and re-evaluated, and you carry on with your day. The odd occasion that an animal does follow through and attack a human being is not rare. A couple of times a year in this country, animals will kill humans, but compared to the sheer weight of game drives going out in a day and the amount of tourists that come and visit our national parks throughout Africa, those incidences are a fraction of a fraction. And can almost always be traced to either humans making a human error. I've just been talking about being chastised. I have my facts slightly wrong there. Sindile wasn't bitten by the dog. He bit the dog with rabies. There was a chance that he was infected by the rabies virus through the dog's saliva, which could have penetrated his skin or have in some way infected him. We just took the necessary precautions for the reasons that I did mention, though. So he didn't actually get rabies, but he was vaccinated against it, and he was held in quarantine just in case. So please excuse me for that. Forgetting myself here. Right, and while we watching him relax in the shade with his impala his belly full of impala, Brent, I'm sure, has an update for you on what's happened with those dogs. It is quite nice, profound meeting a new leopard for a first time. especially one that's as relaxed as this. It's just quite a nice. We'll be sitting here enjoying the warmth of the sun, looking at the color of the blue in the sky, and then we're just marveling at the fact that we've got this leopard lying 15 feet or 15 yards away from us, pretty much oblivious to the fact that we're here. And at peace, surrounded by lion, surrounded by wild dog, surrounded by elephant, and we've got this little island of calm here. Now, he's got an impala in the tree. He's eaten, I suppose, now around about 80-90% of it. Birdie, you've asked me how often do leopard eat. Birdie, leopard will eat as often as they are able to catch something. So they're opportunistic. So even though his belly is full at the moment, he's pretty much swallowed that entire impala that you're having a look at over there now. If another impala had to walk past you, he would jump up and he'd kill it if he can. But they can go for several weeks without food. They've got a pretty high metabolism, and therefore this impala that you're looking at now will only really last him, from a metabolic point of view, no more than 2 weeks. And he'll be hunting again desperately, probably 4 to 5 days from now. They get hungry like you and I do, I think, just from my observations in the bush. You know, after a full meal, you don't need to eat that night. If you have a big lunch, you don't need to eat that night. Potentially the next morning you'd feel a bit snacky, but by lunchtime, your tummy's going to begin growling again. And by dinner of the following night, doesn't matter how much you ate the previous day, you're going to want to eat something. And you could possibly push through that day and maybe the next day, but by day 3, you're going to be feeling it. It's exactly the same with leopard. You see this casual hunting turn into a sort of desperation here at about 4 days to a week or so, and then they usually come right. How long can they last? I've seen an injured leopard, a leopard that was bashed around a bit by lion, last about 2 weeks, get to a point where literally their skin looks like they just stretched over a skeleton. Their body starts to use the muscle fibers for energy at about 10 days to 2 weeks. And although I think they can probably last about 3 weeks without food, I think at that point they would need to find something dead to eat. They wouldn't be in a position to catch anything anymore. So we've got a much higher tolerance for starvation than what they have, and I can only put that down to them having a higher metabolism than what we have. Although, you know, the hunger pangs as I've just described them are pretty similar. What a nice view of his whiskers at this particular point. Those whiskers are to aid him hunting in the dark. They're there to help him feel gaps in the vegetation. And they are very attached to very sensitive nerves, and it's just the light allowing us to capture those whiskers. It's beautiful. My favorite spot on the leopard, you know, over the last couple of days we've had, I'll finish this now in a second. And I'll finish what I was saying in a bit, just to answer Red Dog's question on is Sindile big for his age? No, I don't think so, Red Dog. He's probably, I don't know, once again, excuse me for not knowing the exact facts of when he was born, but I suppose, how old do you say he is now, Brian? He's a year and a half now?
Yeah, I'd say about 20 months or so.
Yeah, 20 months to 24, you know, somewhere around there. And he's not particularly big for his age. I think, comparatively speaking to young male leopard in this particular area, he's probably average, maybe slightly above average. As to leopards in the country, yes, he'd be well above average, I think, in the total average of leopard weights across the country, just because he is in the Sabi Sands. And his father is probably one of the following males, the Anderson male, or Mvula, or Tingana. I'm not too sure. And they're all big leopard. Those leopard are all enormous leopard. His mom isn't particularly big. and neither is his grandmother. But, you know, he's got good genes in him, that's for sure. And who knows what he'll actually turn into. Now, my favorite part of a leopard, just to come back to that, is exactly where you're going to now. That saddle that you're looking at there, with those rosettes, those dots of color, is my favorite part on a leopard. It's just that coat that goes from the single or the smaller dot across the shoulders to the actual large rosette across the pelvis, to me is just an absolutely fantastic part of a leopard. Beautiful, beautiful coloring. Disruptive patterning, that's what that's called, or disruptive camouflage, and those rosettes and that black mark is to break up the silhouette of the leopard. Very similar to how military fatigues have blotches of different colors on them. It's to break up the silhouette. It's to allow the eye not to follow a straight line. And it's that straight line that usually gives away the presence of a predator. So Michael's just provided some fact here to my repertoire here about Sindile. Thank you very, very much, Michael. Michael has said that Sindile will be 2 years old next month. So slightly older than my year and a half and a little bit older than Brian's 20-month prediction. But so he's 23 months old at the moment, and therefore exactly how big he should be for this particular area. Yes, look at those whiskers, just long and beautiful, lustrous whiskers. Diamond, you're a new viewer, and I just want to say welcome, and you couldn't have picked a better time to join. We've got a leopard in view here. This is a very well-known leopard called Sindile, and you just asked me how much does this particular leopard weigh. I'd say he's probably in the region of about 50 kilograms at the moment. Yeah, I'd say about 50 kilograms, maybe slightly lower, between 40 and 50 kilograms, which is between 80 to 100 pounds around about. And he'll almost double in weight by the time he's an adult, which will happen in about 3 years' time. So he's almost 2. In about, looks like he's gonna change position, maybe. Yeah, he's just moving out of the way of that stick. Lying in the cool sand. Stretching his way out there. He's now a little bit more alert than he was. Leopard, they eat a little bit, come down the tree. They hardly ever sleep in the same tree that they feed in. So Daniel, you've just asked me how big this particular cat's territory is and do they overlap? Daniel, he doesn't have a territory just yet. He has what we call a home range. It's a range that he wanders in. The reason he doesn't have a territory yet is because he's still considered an adolescent. He has left his mom. He's definitely alone at the moment and fully capable of looking after himself, but he doesn't have a territory just yet. He isn't starting to mark and to roar. That'll happen in about 3 years' time. And then your second part of your question, you wanted to know if leopard territories overlap. And no, they don't overlap. They have quite rigid borders, except that the borders are very fluid. So male leopard territories don't overlap. They're not like lion territories, but the edges of the borders are very fluid. And for years, it was decided, I suppose, it was a common knowledge that leopard had core territories which never overlapped with one another and home ranges that did overlap with one another. But the current understanding is that they have a territory that with no overlap, but with a boundary that is fluid depending on their condition. So the boundary will move. Very similar to how an amoeba is, I suppose. As I was saying, leopard will eat until they're full, and then they will go, and usually they'll go and sleep away from the tree that their food is in. And the reason for that is that should a lion or another leopard run in here, that cat, the intruder, will be focused on the food and not on the cat, and it'll give the leopard time to make an escape, even though at the cost of his dinner. But the leopard will move away, and it's just a very good thing to see that he's taking these precautions instinctively. Just goes down to show you that, you know, good breeding from very successful parents is a good strategy for success. And he has a very good mom. In actual fact, his mom comes from good breeding stock. He's one of his mother's only surviving cubs. Me personally, I don't think it's got anything to do with her mothering skills whatsoever. I think it's got everything to do with where she finally chose to put up her territory. And I think that she loses her cubs because of the massive clan of hyena, mostly, that is wandering around her territory. That is my own personal opinion, at least, anyway. Excuse me battling around here with my microphone if you're getting these funny noises coming through. I'm just trying to keep the microphone in a place that doesn't let my voice fade and get muffled. I'm turning my head too much. Brian's giving me the evil eye here. I'll just face my microphone and stop moving around. Here he's sleeping again. So once again, just he's got a kill right here. Then they don't need water. They just need the meat. They get all their fluid from that. And so he's actually quite content to just stay here and make sure that all that meat gets turned into fat, if it can, before moving on to the next thing. All right, and on that note, and with Sindile now fast asleep again, I think we're going to send you over to Brent, who has managed to dredge up a surprise for you. Ooh, sorry. See you later. Does indeed look like Sindile is going to go back up the tree. Just me diving out of the way here. Yeah, it looks like he is hungry again. You see that twitch of his tail giving away his mood. Let's see which direction he chooses to go. He might just choose to lie down there. No, he's looking up at the food. Let's see what. Doesn't have much left, and at this particular point, there's always the danger that the food falls out of the tree. No, he's decided to go and change location to sleep in. Look at how he blends into those leaves in the background. Just absolutely fantastic. And you can see that disruptive coloration there on the right-hand side of his neck in the shade. Try and follow the line of the leopard there, and you'll see that where the black spot comes, your eye almost breaks the line of his pattern there. It wants to follow a line, but because of those dark blotches and spots, it almost gives it a jagged edge. And that is his camouflage working. Can you imagine that at night time? You can imagine that in much thicker bush. At a different time of year would render this leopard almost invisible. And on that point, I think we send you back to Brent with those fantastic little lion cubs. Also, Sindile is actually quite aware of what's going on. He hasn't laid down to sleep at all. I think he's getting ready to jump up into that tree and to finish off the last little bit of his food. You can see him looking blissfully at his meal, catching a scent on the air. He seems very at ease, very relaxed. Not a care in the world, actually. Once again, just coming back to the anomaly that is this cat. Generally, dispersal male leopard wander from or through territory to territory, getting pushed out by the dominant male in that particular area until they either find a void that has no male leopard. A male leopard may have been killed or died of disease or whatever. Or they eventually become big enough to fight for a territory and to squash themselves either into a territory or to expel a male leopard that was there through a fight. This particular male leopard has come into an area that has one close. Anderson I don't think comes all the way here, but definitely Tingana and Mvula are definitely crawling all over this particular this particular patch. He has been seen sharing a kill with Mvula and Djuma as well. Was it Mvula that he was sharing a kill with the other day?
Not too sure.
Or Tingana, I can't remember which one, but he was sharing a kill the other day with an older male. It was Mvula. He was sharing a kill with Mvula the other day, which is not uncommon for the father of a cub to do with an adolescent. So it's not uncommon behavior. They're rare to see two male leopards, especially two independent male leopards in a tree together, but not unheard of and not unexpected, at least anyway, for the father of that particular male. And at 2 years, let me just think about what I've seen amongst leopard before. I mean, the fact that he's wandered so far and has come back to his natal range is actually what's astounding. The presence of an adolescent male in his natal range at 2 years of age is in itself not that remarkable. Male leopard will only really start to leave. If we look at just the recent examples of Kunyuma and Quarantine, they only leave at 2 years plus their natal range. Incidentally, both of those male leopard, Quarantine has set up a territory probably about 10 kilometers from here in Cheetah Plains. And I don't know if he's actively defending it yet, but he's definitely there. And Kunyuma gave a dominant male leopard called the Estrip male a hiding the other day in a bit of a territorial display. So he's starting to exhibit that stubbornness that is inherent of dominant male leopards. But they're obviously much older than this youngster. So I fully expect him to actually move on at a point. But I think it's expected that he is young and in his natal range, with the exception that he wandered so far when he was dropped back here, easily 50 miles from here, in a massive circle. I think it'll be the cause of much debate in years to come as to exactly why. There's a theory on the table at the moment that because the Kruger National Park has closed off all its watering points, that prey was just so limited that no matter in which direction he went, he couldn't find enough to eat. And the Sabi Sands, having a lot of surface water and a lot of prey animals, was just the natural place for him to come. And it just so happens to have led him back to his natal range. So James Richard has just asked me, since I've now seen Sindile, do I have any other male leopards on my bucket list? James, immediately what springs to mind is just, I'd love to see this Anderson male that everyone keeps on talking about. Apparently he's an absolutely enormous leopard. So I'd love to see him. Other than that, James, my interests don't really lie with these cats. I mean, I appreciate that they're pretty and that they are phenomenally good hunters and that they are really the poster children for the bush out here. My interests lie with the smaller creatures around here. And so I have a bucket list which includes many dozens of insects and spiders and different types of arachnids and lizards and snakes. But yeah, I appreciate what I'm seeing. I mean, he is a good looking animal, there's no doubt. All right, and Brent has got a little bit of an update on those lions at the moment, so we'll stay here with Sindile until the end of the show and catch up with you in a little bit. And we are still with this young male leopard. He's now lying up at the base of the tree, slightly different to where he was. Just lying up. I think what he's doing is he's getting a bit hot. The sun is intense at the moment. I'm feeling it beating down upon my neck. He's just breathing there, belly full, very content. That is a happy leopard. I love this profile of his face. Leopard skulls are actually almost completely oval. Now, what we're not seeing there is the fact that the nose, which is cartilaginous, not bony, hides that round So that's a perfect line to see how a leopard's skull is. You can see that almost oval look because you can't see his nose. His nose protrudes out and breaks that. But even from the front, you recognize that roundness. Now, if you have a look at a leopard's skull from the front, it's actually triangular. The roundness comes from muscles which are attached to the lower jaw, which give leopard their bite force. But now if you follow that line, take off the nose and follow that line from the forehead down to the front lip, you will see that it's an almost completely oval skull from this side profile. And that, if you look at a pair of garden shears, that shearing motion, that absolute power that you get from an oval or a circular shearing motion is what gives leopard their incredible bite force. And it's just a marvel of creation and of form following function when you see how well these cats are actually designed and adapted. So Diamond, you've just asked how many years will this cat most likely live for, and how many years do leopard live for? Leopard usually live between 12 and 16 years, with the odd exception getting to 18 years that I've heard of through the ether. And the reason why that is in this particular area is mainly because this area is jam-packed with predators. Lots of hyena, lots of other male leopard, lots of lion. And that's generally what get leopard down, or the cause of the end. But starvation, I heard a report when I was a young guide once of them doing some tests on the bones of leopard and figuring out that leopard go through these feast and famine stages in development, where things go very good for them and then things don't go so good for them. And it's evident in their bone structure. So I think it's pretty typical of how leopard live out here. One day is good, the next day they've spent 2 weeks not finding anything or being chased around. It's come to that part of the day where I have to unfortunately say goodbye to you for now. But I just have to say